Hello and welcome to episode
16.
of the franchise. I'm your host, Daniel Ehrenberg.
I'm your host, Henry Papali.
And today we're covering The Fugitive, as well as its pseudo-sequel, U.S. Marshals.
Yes, we is.
Yeah, so The Fugitive, you want to start there? Directed by Andrew Davis and written by David Toohey and Jeb Stewart. Who
Can I just quickly?
You mentioned Jeb Stewart in an earlier episode.
That's correct.
Is that what you were going to say?
I was going to say, I call him Jeb Die Hard Stewart and David Pitch Black Toohey.
Yeah, David Toohey, of course, goes on to be a director, and he is responsible for all those Pitch Black movies. Stay tuned.
Yeah. But he's also responsible. He wrote and directed The Arrival, which I know we're fans of.
Yeah, have we talked about The Arrival?
Not on the podcast, but yeah, we've talked about it before. How it's like a really good alien movie.
Yeah,
like,
that is
under
a
the
good
radar.
movie. Yeah, it's sort of like Independence Day if Independence Day had any subtlety.
Yeah.
And a really great lead performance by Charlie Sheen. Let's never forget, at one point he was a fantastic movie star.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mentioned Jeb Stewart when in the Die Hard episode, and it was pretty good on my part. I had said that, I think I said it like 3 months ago. I said I believe he co-wrote The Fugitive.
Yeah, no, I distinctly remember this.
And I was right.
When I saw Jeb Stewart's name in the credits, I was like, holy shit. Henry called that out on like our first or second episode or something.
Yeah. Just such a weird first name, There's not too many Jebs around.
No.
I can't really think of another significant Jeb.
Certainly not a significant one.
No. Jeb Stewart wrote Die Hard, this, and I wrote with an arrow pointing down Other Junk.
Oh,
so
okay. Fair enough.
That covers him. Yeah. I did my usual, research, and there was obviously nothing distinguishable. So.
Do you have any feeling on Andrew Davis?
This is his best movie by far. I wrote nothing else this great. The other ones he did are solid, like thrillers, like Under Siege.
Yep.
A Perfect Murder.
Sure, that's not a bad movie.
No, and Above the Law, another Steven Seagal.
Yeah, I know. He's worked with Steven Seagal a few times.
That's it.
Yeah,
really.
I think he got lucky with this one. I gotta say.
I agree, but he did it. He directed the hell out of it.
He did, but I think if this movie doesn't have the script it has and the great premise taken from the TV show from the 60s.
Right.
And, most importantly, Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones.
And the thing I want to see, what I wrote under editing, which is not something I always give credit to, 6 people edited this movie.
That's surprising, actually, because it's paced really tautly.
Right, but
yeah.
I think it took 6 guys to kind of make it that way, apparently. I mean, because, it's not like Andrew Davis had like what Thelma Schoonmaker, isn't she? Scorsese, it's not like a great editor that he had working with him, but it took 6 people to kind of put this together. So
yeah, and
he got a lot of help from James Newton Howard on the score.
Sure, the score is really good, and I meant to look up James Newton Howard and I forgot, but
I got that
okay,
cue, so
good.
don't worry. And he also had an excellent cinematographer who I looked up and was stunned.
Who?
Michael Chapman. Do you know this guy?
He went on to direct, didn't he? Am I wrong?
Yeah, he may have, but I tend to write down what I find significant. So I do believe you're right, but he's not in any way a significant director. What he is significant for is shooting Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and, one of my favorite movies, The Last Detail.
Oh, sure, The Last Detail.
Bob Rafelson and Jack Nicholson. But Taxi Driver and
Jack
Raging...
Nicholson with a sailor hat.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I have. I saw it once, but...
I love that movie.
Because I love Bob Rafelson. I met him,
too.
actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
he was an interesting guy. I interviewed him for my college newspaper.
That's cool. I like him too. Yeah. But anyways,
What's his big movie though? What? Because we talked mostly because it was for like a re-release of a specific movie.
Oh boy.
What's his major one?
He's done a bunch with Nicholson.
It probably was a Nicholson.
Yeah, I'm looking real quick. But,
this sucks.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't expect you to.
I know. Well, why the fuck would he ever come up in this conversation?
Right, but this Chapman guy. I mean, it's pretty amazing that he shot Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. You don't think of the name.
5 Easy Pieces, by the way.
5 Easy Pieces, The King of Marvin Gardens,
Yeah.
a bunch of Nicholson, The Postman Always Rings Twice. One of my favorite movies that we've mentioned, but I don't think, cared about or ever saw, which was Blood and Wine. With Michael Caine.
Yeah, I don't know that movie.
Yeah, he actually hasn't directed that many things. He's done 10 or 11 movies. But yeah, you're right. 5 Easy Pieces. That's his biggie.
Yeah. Anyway, that has nothing to do with The Fugitive. But we talk about things like cinematography and editing, and they were all nominated for Oscars. This is a big Oscar-nominated film we're covering today.
It was. True.
Nominated for Best Picture, by the way.
I remember when that happened.
I don't think it's good enough for that. But,
I'd have to look at the year.
That's like a thing the Oscars do every few years where it's like, we're going to nominate a big hit action movie this year. Like The Dark Knight. Was The Dark Knight nominated or was it just Ledger?
No, I believe... No, it wasn't. I don't... Was that a year when they did 10 nominees when they started doing that, or was that prior?
I think it might have been. I don't know.
I don't know.
I know Avatar slipped in one of those years.
Yeah, I know. I feel like The Dark Knight didn't make it because I feel like there was a little snobbery uproar going on there. Not that the uproar was snobby, but it was that the Oscars were being snobby towards this great movie.
Yeah, I think it was still early on in superhero movies, so we were still super not taking them seriously.
Right.
But, that's fine.
And final last credit before you get into the plot and all that was, I also thought, everybody was firing on all cylinders this movie. The casting was also excellent.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. I have a lot to say about it.
No, I was just going to say that I'm giving the casting directors
sure.
two women I've never heard of and never did again. But, they did a hell of a job.
Yeah, by the way, there are an insane amount of actors that went on to do shit that are given nothing roles in this movie.
Yeah, I wrote them down.
Yeah, me too. All right, so the stats here. It was released August 6th, 1993. Some were released, but August. They're hedging their bets.
You think they were?
I think so. I think when a movie's released in August, the studio's this could go either way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Budget of $44 million. Box office of $368.9 million.
Ooh.
Holy fuck.
I was one of those ticket buyers, so I contributed to that.
I didn't see it in theaters, but saw it soon after, and, I liked this movie from a very young age. By the way, number 3 in the box office for 1993.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You want to guess on the rest of that top 5?
1993.
Yeah.
Schindler's List.
No.
I didn't know. I thought that made a lot of money. Shit.
You got that director right, though.
Jurassic Park.
Yep, that's number 1.
I don't know. I'm not sure. 93.
Okay, number 5. Sleepless in Seattle.
Okay.
Number 4. And no one remembers how big a hit this movie was. The Firm.
I saw that in theaters. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That was a hit.
Yeah. Fugitive coming in at number 3. Number 2, it was a drive-by fruiting, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hot flashes. All right. Yeah, okay.
Hello. And number 1, Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jurassic Park, was that way ahead on number 1?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Although Mrs. Doubtfire, man, made a lot of money.
Yeah.
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 This movie, nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Best Picture, as we said. Cinematography, so your fella there. editing, score, sound, and sound editing all got nominations. That's a lot.
It is a lot, and none of them.
Well, it did win one award.
No,
though.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones, Best Supporting Actor that year.
Yep.
Really an odd choice.
Yeah, I think he beat out Ben Kingsley for Schindler's List, if my memory serves me correct. I could be wrong, but
could be. And that's got to be so weird. Like you're up for Schindler's List, and your opponent wins, and he won for like reprising the role of some nobody from a TV show.
Yeah.
It also won the MTV Movie Award.
That's funny.
For Best Action Sequence.
Oh.
For the train wreck, and it was nominated for Best On-Screen Duo, Ford and Lee, which is interesting because they share very little screen time.
Yeah. That's way to go, MTV.
And let's go back to that old AFI Most Thrilling Movies of All Time list.
Love it.
Number 33 on there, so slightly less thrilling than Titanic. And so this is a monster. This movie we're covering. Mm-hmm. It's a hit with critical pedigree, and
audiences, critics, everybody.
Sure. So let's go over. I think it's so important. Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones to this movie. They were the exact right choices, both of them.
Yep.
I love them both in this movie.
So do I.
So Harrison Ford was on a list with Alec Baldwin, Nick Nolte, Kevin Costner, and Michael Douglas.
Yep.
You read that?
Yeah, I read that.
Do you think any of those other ones could have been decent in this movie?
I think the only one named that might have brought the similar, like, humanity
Douglas?
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I don't know how he would have fared.
He would have been less likable, but
whatever. In the, like, kind of more action-y sequences, I don't know how he would have done, but probably he would have done a pretty good job.
He can do that. I mean, honestly, The Fugitive, tonally, and in terms of his pace, is kind of similar to The Game.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Douglas can do that stuff. He did Black Rain. He knows how to look cool doing an action sequence. He's
you and your Black Rain. I love it.
Yep.
I can't believe that's the first time Black Rain came up on this podcast.
Is it?
I think so. I could be wrong. You love
it. I don't know, man. Let me go back and listen to 3 months.
And the other two actors considered for the Tommy Lee Jones role were Gene Hackman and Jon Voight.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman would have been good.
Yeah, he would. I agree.
Yeah, but Tommy Lee Jones is kind of perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I'm not exactly gonna quibble with Tommy Lee Jones's Oscar performance.
No.
Okay, so let's get into the movie. How do you feel about it? When was the last time you saw it?
Well, this is one of those movies I've seen a million times. However, again, weirdly, I don't own it. I don't know why. I guess I had it on VHS. I'd always seen it consistently through the years and always loved it. And then until watching it for this, it's probably been maybe almost 10 years since I've seen it.
It's definitely been more than that for me.
I'd probably less, honestly. Probably less. I definitely saw this when I was
I probably watched this movie like 4 or 5 times, but it was really around like I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. No, I've seen this movie I don't even have any idea how many times I've seen it. Yeah. I love it. Nothing in it diminished for me upon my viewing this time, and nothing really increased. It's always been a movie I loved, so it was just a nice, solid movie. It was the first time I got to watch it on Blu-ray, so I had never seen it in a really nice print, and that was kind of a nice thing.
I think though that made me see through it a little bit. Sure. I still really enjoyed it, but I really was aware of the Andrew Davis of it all.
Oh, that's interesting.
I always thought of this movie as way better than your average 90s action movie. And it is better, but watching it this time, you could see the Under Siege in it.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that. Yeah, I think it's pretty miles above Under Siege, but you're saying like direction wise.
Yeah, I don't think it is miles above Under Siege, and I think if it is better than Under Siege, which isn't a movie I hate, by the way.
No, I like Under Siege.
It's just more sort of generically 90s action. Or 80s, late 80s?
No, Under Siege is 92. I think
okay.
He did it right before he did this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because actually, that's what got him this job.
Yeah,
Somebody
they
hired
was a
him.
hit.
Yeah.
No, I think this movie succeeds almost entirely on the backs of Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. They are giving such incredibly watchable performances.
Yeah.
That, I mean, every sort of hokey thing in this script and every weirdly directed, like, fucking totally of its time action sequence is made better.
Yeah, and, Harrison Ford, always love him. But he's really into this. Like, you can tell. I think he's one of those actors that sometimes betrays his boredom.
I completely agree, and I think we're sort of at the tail end of his run. It's like a weird phase for Harrison Ford in 1993, where he's no longer like the wise guy. He's like already becoming like the boringly serious guy, but he hasn't reached the period where he's not trying anymore.
I agree.
And
this is like pre 6 Days, 7 Nights and post Patriot games. Or,
I think Air Force One is the end of Harrison Ford for me.
The turning point.
Yeah, because after Air Force One, he does 6 Days, 7 Nights, and he does Random Hearts.
Yeah.
And like he has a couple of decent performances after that, like What Lies Beneath.
Yes.
But for the most part, it's we're in extraordinary measures territory.
Yeah, it's paycheck time.
Yeah,
it's kind of just right. Yeah, he's invested in this movie.
Was he in Paycheck?
Paycheck?
Yeah.
No, that's the Ben Affleck film.
Yeah, I know. I'm joking.
Nice. No. I was kind of asking with a question mark. I wasn't sure. Yeah, right. Uma Thurman and all that.
Yeah. I saw it in theaters.
Oh, Double Boy.
Yeah, so that's kind of my feeling on The Fugitive still. And it's the actors, and there's some really good action sequences. I think the St. Patrick's Day section.
Are you gonna outline the plot at all?
Yeah, I really should. Okay, so this is the first film we're doing that's based on a TV show. And this is a show that ran for 4 years in the 60s. It was never like a gigantic hit while it was on, but it's critically well remembered. And the movie actually oddly follows the plot of the show fairly succinctly. Like that show ran for like 120 episodes, and like this movie just does the plot in a movie.
I didn't really know that.
To the point where when we get to the sequel, like there's no more plot.
Right.
So they have to create something wholesale.
Right.
So it's about this fellow, Richard Kimball, played by Harrison Ford, who's
a vascular surgeon.
Yeah, who's a vascular surgeon, sure. And and his wife, played by Celia Ward from Sisters. Man. We can't stop talking about fucking Sisters on this podcast for some reason.
You can't. I have nowhere to go with Sisters, but enjoy yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
The beautiful Celia Ward.
She gets murdered by a one-armed man.
You know what I did forget? Not to segue at all. Actually, it'll just help with the plot. But man, that's a vicious murder.
It is. And
God damn!
I thought
remember.
And I thought we were left to wonder whether Harrison Ford was innocent for longer.
Oh, really?
But no, we get like flashback immediately to that murder.
You thought so you really didn't remember this movie?
No, not well. No.
No.
I remember like a couple moments, and it's honestly mostly moments that are just so iconic that they've been parodied in other stuff.
Right.
Like, there's that scene with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones where, you know, they're at the end of that tunnel.
Oh, yeah, of course.
For the waterfall. It's a great scene, and Harrison Ford says, I didn't kill my wife, and Tommy Lee Jones says, I don't care.
An ad-lib line, by the way, which I never knew.
From Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah.
That's such a brilliant line.
Yeah, he was supposed to say, that's not my job, or something like, that's not, like, it's not what I'm after you for, or something, and he just ad-libbed, I don't care. And that was way better.
Those two lines so perfectly sum up those characters and their motivations in this movie. It's absolutely brilliant. It's, to me, easily the best moment in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that scene has been parodied a ton. Like, there's a scene in like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where they got a monkey and it's Will Ferrell instead of Tommy Lee Jones. Do you remember this at all?
Nope.
And by the way, when I was a kid, I saw, I believe in theaters, the Leslie Nielsen parody of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this? It was called Wrongfully Accused, and it was a direct parody of The Fugitive in the way that, like, Scary Movie was for Scream.
Loaded Weapon.
Yeah, sure, or Airplane.
Well, except that Airplane's great.
Well, yeah, but it's a direct parody of Airport. Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, so the plot,
we can cover Airport on this franchise
that
podcast,
would be,
by the way.
That would be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Because I'm not familiar with them.
Me neither.
I saw, and I'm sure that it's got one of those huge ensemble casts from the 70s.
And they're probably terrible.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Okay.
That would be fun.
Yeah, so Kimball's on the run. He's framed for the murder. And there's a crash when they're taking him off to prison. And he gets away, and Tommy Lee Jones plays a U.S. Marshal who's after him.
Yeah, and
he's trying to basically solve his own wife's murder. Like,
he insists it's a one-armed man.
Yeah, and he's trying to figure out who that is through the entire movie.
Right, which that was also a big thing with the one-armed man. Wasn't that in Cable Guy, too? Like Jim Carrey at one point said.
Yeah, I think
It wasn't me, it was the one-armed man.
He's referencing the TV show, though, because there's like a ton of like 60s TV references in that
That's
movie.
A good point.
Yeah. I do remember that, though. Oh, the Cable Guy. Hey, we'll never be able to cover the Cable Guy on this podcast, so
we'll work it in.
I'm going to say right here, that is a ridiculously underrated movie.
I completely agree. I saw it in theaters, and I love it. I love it.
I didn't know how to feel about it when I was a kid because I was a big Jim Carrey guy. You know, like I was young, so I loved Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber and The Mask. Yeah. And then when the Cable Guy came out, I didn't know how to feel about it, and it wasn't until I rewatched it in college, that I just fucking fell in love with that movie.
I was the perfect age for the Cable Guy. I was like 18, and I had seen those other Jim Carrey movies, and I loved them too. But like I was at the right age where I could appreciate what was happening, and I loved it.
That movie's incredible. I wish Ben Stiller would do sort of more offbeat stuff like that today. He still acts and stuff, like he does those Noah Baumbach films, but I feel like the stuff he's directing lately, I'm super duper not interested in.
Yeah, I agree.
Since probably Tropic Thunder.
Oh, that's right. He directed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty much the plot. I mean, it's a very intricate. I mean, you don't have to get into all the why. You know, it's a pharmaceutical company involved, and his one of his good friends is really the one who orchestrated it. It's supposed to be Kimball that was murdered, and it wasn't because he wasn't home.
Right. It turns out the one-armed man is like a pharmaceutical security guy who was hired by Kimball's friend, who's a doctor, to kill his wife because his wife was sort of like on to them. They were like,
no. What? No. He was hired to kill. He was hired to kill Kimball.
Yeah.
When the guy got there, the presumption is that, Kimball's not home. I'll just kill the wife, and he'll get framed for it because it all works out very neatly for the killer. Like she leaves a message on 911, basically saying in her brain trauma induced state.
Celia Ward's character, yeah.
Yeah, that it's Richard Kidd, but she doesn't. That's not what she's saying.
She's like asking for her husband.
Right, she
in,
can
like,
hear
her
him.
death throes.
Right,
and,
right.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound good.
No.
So fuck you, Celia Ward. You really fucked over your husband.
Yeah, you did. And what a great moment when get into it. When that judge sentences him to death by lethal injection, and then the gavel comes down, and Harrison Ford like shudders. You know, it's really good. Moment. It's just every beat is just really well acted and well played.
I really think we have to keep coming back to the cast, because I think the cast is the reason this movie works. So there are a lot of good actors peppered around here. Celia Ward, by the way, is one of them.
Yep.
But how about 2 future Lost cast members? How about that on Tommy Lee Jones?
Go ahead. I don't know who you're going to say.
Oh, baby. We got Daniel Roebuck as Biggs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went on to play Arst, the high school science teacher that got blown up by dynamite in the first season finale.
Oh, geez, and I've seen the first season of Lost. I don't remember him in that at all.
He's a recurring character in that first season. And we also have L. Scott Caldwell, by the way.
Go ahead.
She's the black woman on Tommy Lee Jones's team.
Oh, I'm glad you brought her up, because she's going to come up in U.S. Marshals.
She sure is. Holy fuck, dude. We'll get there.
That's great that you... All right. I didn't even know you'd even pay any attention.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you've named actors that I didn't even write down.
Yeah, so well, L. Scott Caldwell, she goes on to play Rose on Lost, of Rose and Bernard. She's in the entire run of that show. Do you remember them?
Nope.
Come on, dude. She was like an important character.
I haven't seen the first season of Lost since it aired on television, man. So
she's memorable enough you'd remember her. I'll forgive you for not remembering Arst, the science teacher, but Rose was like important.
I don't remember. And I love that. I really liked that first season. I just, I don't remember. There was kind of, as I recall, a big cast in that show.
Oh, was there?
Who else you got? Who else did you write down for the cast?
How about Jane Lynch?
Yeah.
A very early Jane Lynch performance. She pops up as a doctor
who has a little crush on Dr. Kimball.
Yeah, I didn't buy that for a second.
You don't buy that now, but you might have bought it in 1993.
Yeah. And lastly, not to bring up Scrubs 2 weeks in a row, but Neil Flynn,
you got me again.
Yeah, a great improviser and actor who played the janitor on Scrubs, as the cop who gets shot on the train at the end.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
the guy who's literally his line is "freeze."
And by the way, that's used as a plot point in Scrubs. They did a great episode where Zach Braff is watching The Fugitive on TV, and he sees that scene. They show it, and they act like the janitor character from the show, like, used to be an actor, and like they're first now finding out about it. And he like had that one line in The Fugitive.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was really good.
Wow.
So that's who I have. Do you have anybody?
I have Julianne Moore.
Oh yeah. By the way, Julianne Moore is like third billed or something, and she's barely in this movie. And
I think something must have been going on where she was really on the cusp of becoming somebody.
Yeah, we're 2 years away from Assassins.
We're 2 years away from 9 months. And,
yeah.
And like I think. I watched one of the behind the scenes things, only about 8 minutes of it because it was really poorly made. But somebody, I think Spielberg saw her in this, and then didn't cast her for like 4 years. But right, she's in the second Jurassic Park movie.
She's really good in that movie, The Lost World Jurassic Park.
So Julianne Moore, and the other ones I wrote down, of course, were Joey Pants again.
Hey, it's me! Yeah, Joey Pants is back from franchise.
I'm at the height of my
crossover.
career. If I'm gonna do anything, man, I'm gonna be U.S. Marshal. I get roped into this. I get roped into that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great.
Hey, Andrew Davis, can I wear stupid sunglasses in this one?
And a wig.
Yeah, he really is wearing a flat-out wig in both of these movies. By the way, he comes back for U.S. Marshals and has a.
They all do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, not there yet. Not there yet.
But Joey Pants has a really big part in that U.S. Marshals. I was surprised at the Joey Pants quotient in U.S. Marshals.
There's a big quotient of pants in there. And my other three I wrote down were Richard Reel.
Who's that?
He's the great character actor who's the fat guy with the mustache who's like the guard in the beginning who then like lies to Tommy Lee Jones that like he thinks Kimball's dead.
Oh yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah,
you'd know him if you saw him, audience. Like he's one of these fellows who looks like a walrus kind of. And
he's in Office Space.
He sure is. Yeah, he's the guy with the jump to conclusions mat in Office Space. Yeah.
The sheriff who he's lying to is Nick Searcy, who did a lot of television, but I loved him as a drill. So this is a real Henry pick. I loved him as the drill sergeant in Tigerland.
Well, oh yeah, sure. I like Tigerland.
And he's great in The Fugitive. He's in it very short amount of time, but he's the one with the line, "We're going to pack it up now. Wyatt Earp is here to clean things up."
And by the way, I started this podcast with the theme song from Justified, which is a TV show about U.S. Marshals.
Is he in that?
And he's like the boss of the department on Justified.
I knew it was something big. Yeah.
He's
and finally, the great Dutch actor is the villain, Jeroen Krabbe.
Yeah, he hasn't done a lot of American movies, right?
No, but whatever I've seen him in, he's great.
Yeah, he's really good. He's a valuable commodity in this movie.
And he was
that
the
character
only one
could have been so boring.
I agree, and he was actually not the first choice and not the first one to even be in the film. They had to reshoot a scene because the first guy they had, Richard Jordan, died, and so they had to recast him.
Oh, holy shit!
Yeah. Richard Jordan, audience, you recognize him from like some '80s movies. You'd know him too, Dan. He's like, he always played like a smarmy kind of rich guy, and he was like in The Secret of My Success.
Oh.
And I just pulled that out of my head. I don't remember him like in specific roles, but when I looked him up, I was like, oh my God, Richard Jordan, sure. Like he was one of those faces that you just knew. And I don't know, he wouldn't have been as good.
What's the name of the Dutch actor?
Jeroen Krabbe, Krabbe.
Yeah, so he's playing a doctor in this movie.
Right.
And it's such a weird thing because the movie is directed and paced like just a 90s action movie, like Under Siege or whatever.
Yeah.
But like at the end of this movie, that guy and Harrison Ford are having a fist fight.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me, like, this has to be the only, like major action movie that ends with a couple of doctors punching each other.
Yeah. I love his character, too, because, and it still holds up, like, I think that his character is genuinely, I don't know if you agree with this, I want to get your opinion. I feel like his character is genuinely conflicted about, like, I think he's guilty. Not guilty of the murder, of course he's guilty of that, but I think he feels bad about it. Like, it's almost like until Richard Kimball is clearly, like, solving it, like, he seems like he does want to help him. Like he doesn't like that this is happening. You know, like he's real smart ass with the Marshals.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and he doesn't have to be.
That's true.
Because he doesn't have to be because it does not benefit him. I mean, it benefits him if Kimball is caught and executed.
Yeah.
And he prolongs that as long as he can as long as he can.
You're right. The two times that he sort of interacts with the rest of the cast of this movie when Harrison Ford goes to his car. And when he has that scene where Tommy Lee Jones comes to his house, those are like really good scenes. And I don't know if the intention was just to be like a red herring or whatever. But
well, I think it was.
Yeah.
But the actor himself is just
He's imbuing it with something. I don't think it's in the script. I think it's
I think you're right. You're right. It's because of his acting that you feel that way. I think another actor, and actually like Richard Jordan, would have just been like, "Oh, this guy's fucking guilty." Like, there's no sympathy going on here. But with this guy, you don't really know, like, what's going on, you know?
Yeah, it's a likable performance, and I didn't remember where this movie ended up, and so it genuinely fooled me even on a rewatch. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And
what else you got on The Fugitive?
I was going to say, I liked a lot of Ford, like, going back to Harrison Ford, I just liked a lot of his he doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
I wrote that down, dude. Halfway through this movie, I wrote, Harrison Ford memorized 7 lines of dialogue for this movie.
Right. Yeah.
Because, like, Tommy Lee Jones has, like, a team, so it's people to naturally interact with. Harrison Ford is just, like, on his own trying to solve this murder the entire time. Like, the only times we see him interact with people are when we see, like, he rents an apartment or something.
Right.
And so, like, he has a couple of lines with, like, the landlord.
Right.
And but there's really not a lot of chatting.
I wrote down 2 moments where Ford's reactions are just so amazing.
One of them is the court scene that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, but that's not what I wrote down.
Okay,
that was just off my head there. Yeah. When he's in that apartment that he rents, and he thinks that the cops are there for him, but they're actually there for the drug dealer that lives upstairs, and then he realizes that they're not after him. He, like, has this, like, giant, like, sigh of relief, but also just complete frustration that he's, like, living like this.
100%. Yeah, it's a moment where you can tell he's thinking, like, what is my life?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's great.
So good. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I wrote down was at the end when Tommy Lee Jones is telling him in that laundry room, he's like, Richard, I know you're innocent, and he, like, tells him why, and Harrison Ford just shows, like, that when Tommy Lee Jones knows he's innocent, he just, like, he's so relieved.
Yeah,
it's just a great moment.
It's like
great.
It's almost like he's been on the run for so long that he, like, doubts whether he's in the right or something. Like, he almost, like, doubts his own innocence. So to get that justification from the Tommy Lee Jones character is so huge for him in that moment.
Yeah, and
it's great.
One little moment I just wanted to add if we're wrapping up. I love the and I never noticed this ever, and I noticed it specifically because it's on the Blu-ray, and it's a nothing throwaway, but it's a nice little touch. When he's being interrogated by the cops, who are great Chicago actors, in the first scene when he's, like, you know, in the bloody T-shirt and all that, I noticed, it's so bizarre, but, like, on the Blu-ray, it's so clear he's wearing a watch. Harrison Ford, okay? And he, like, puts his head in his hands, and his watch says 3:45 on it. And I was like, wow, that's an attention to detail. I don't know who, like, on the costume designer or whatever, but it's, like, means that he's, like, been in interrogation, like, all night.
Sure.
And I just love that. Like, it's just so clear. Like, the detail.
It's a good movie.
It's just fantastic. Yeah.
It's a good movie.
I still want to know where he gets all this money to do all this stuff. That's
he's a doctor.
But he has no money. I've been wondering that. But he buys all these things, and I'm like, where is he renting it? How's he renting an apartment? What?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, he borrows money from the other doctor.
How much did he give him? I mean, my God. He buys clothes. He buys hair dye. He buys all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Continuous fund of money, and I'm just like, where is this coming from? But it's okay.
I like that it starts with Harrison Ford having a beard, so it's not like he grows a beard in the movie. It's like, well, we could just have him cut the beard, like, 5 minutes in.
Very deliberate choice. Yeah.
So I always suspected The Fugitive is a great movie, and I don't think it is. I think it's a good movie.
I think it's a great.
I think it's a very good movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going 5 stars.
All right, I'm going 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
My MVP is Ford.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mine is Jones.
I figured that.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious choice, but I'm still going with it.
It's okay. And
Yeah.
I don't have an LVP. I couldn't pull one out.
Yeah, it is a tough one because like this movie just kind of works.
Right.
Yeah. I'll give it to Andrew Davis, actually, which is odd, but like because he's the director of a very good movie. But I do think this could have been a great movie in different hands.
That's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with a different director, you might not have needed 6 editors.
Yeah. Good point.
Because these guys probably, Andrew Davis, for all we know, handed them 25 hours of footage and was like, "Here, guys."
Yeah.
And I do have a superhero count.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Well, one of them's recurring. We got Joey Pants again.
Sure,
Ben
of course, Ben Urich.
And the other one took me like a day after I watched it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Tommy Lee Jones is in Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yeah, he sure is. Yeah, he's like a drill instructor, right?
Yeah. How about that? Yeah, I didn't even look it up. I was just like, he's in Captain America. I know it.
Tommy Lee Jones is one of these actors that, like, even when he's not trying in, like, an utterly shit movie, I'm still totally down to see him.
He's so authentic, He's just
great. You know what
the
the best underrated Tommy Lee Jones performance is that I want to, like, recommend?
In the Valley of Elah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Well, that was a complete... wow. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, that's so weird.
That is weird. I was just throwing that out there. Okay, yeah.
It's a movie by Paul Haggis who made Crash, which is terrible, but like...
Shit. Yeah.
This one is on point. It's a really good movie, and Tommy Lee Jones is great in it, and so is Susan Sarandon.
I agree.
Yeah.
Very good. Good rec.
Yeah, good rec. All right, so we move on. I mean, we're up to U.S. Marshals.
5 years have passed.
5 years have passed. I mean, because there's no obvious way to do a sequel to The Fugitive.
Right.
Because Harrison Ford is the main character. Harrison Ford's the star of The Fugitive. And Tommy Lee Jones is a supporting actor.
Right.
And when we get to U.S. Marshals, like, Harrison Ford's story is over, and Harrison Ford could not care less to come back to this franchise.
Yeah.
And so we're just making Tommy Lee Jones the main character.
And we should say, too, this movie, I don't think The Fugitive, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it was ever made with the intention of sequels. Do you?
No, of course not.
Okay. Well, but you never know because...
But they wrapped it up. Like, if they wanted to, they could have left this movie with Harrison Ford still on the run.
Right.
But they did the entire plot of the TV series in one movie.
Right.
So now we're going to do Tommy Lee Jones starring in a U.S. Marshal procedural, basically, where now Wesley Snipes is the fugitive, but we're flipping it where Tommy Lee Jones is the star of this movie, and Wesley Snipes is a supporting actor.
Isn't he? He's given top billing with Jones, though.
Is he?
Right. I think so. I mean, Wesley Snipes was
he was huge at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's given equal billing. Yeah.
So U.S. Marshals is directed by Stuart Baird and written by John Pogue. It comes out March 6th, 1998, on a budget of $45 million. It ends up making $102 million worldwide. So it's not a disaster, but it didn't make money.
No.
And it was beaten in its first weekend by Titanic, which had already been out for over 3 months.
Oh, my God.
That movie was such a monster. Do you remember how, like, deep into 1998 that movie was, like...
Oh, very much. Very much so. I remember I saw, was going a lot of movies in 1998, and I remember it being at the theater constantly, and it was, not something I ever entered into. But
I
was like, oh, what am I seeing today? Oh, Titanic's still there, huh? That's nice. Wow.
It took such a long time for Titanic to come out on VHS that it was like an event when it did.
Yeah.
It was
you have a little thing about that,
Yeah,
right?
it was the only time ever that my local Blockbuster did a midnight release for something.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, people went and bought Titanic.
Blockbuster video. Wow. What a difference. How about that?
Yeah, I later worked in that store.
Yeah.
It's number 36 in box office for the year. I wrote down the 3 movies just below it and just above it.
Oh, okay. 1998. Jesus Christ. That was as I recall, from our extensive top 10 list writing,
Sure.
that is not a good year for good movies. But in terms of blockbusters, I have no.
Well, it's not a
clue,
block.
man.
It's number 36. So
Right.
we're not
Okay.
talking
So I don't know.
blockbusters.
Out of Sight.
Oh, that's a good guess, but no.
Pie.
No, that movie made nothing.
I know.
Okay, so it does.
I don't know.
It does slightly better than The Man in the Iron Mask.
Oh wow.
Sure, which only made money because Leo was on it
Right.
like a month away from Titanic. And A Civil Action.
Oh my God.
How about that? Saw that in theaters. And one of my all-time favorite movies, Henry.
Oh no. I think I know what you're gonna say, and I think I saw it in theaters too.
Say
Snake Eyes.
Yeah! Brian De Palma's Snake Eyes, which Katie just took me to see in theaters at a Brian De Palma retrospective.
Wow.
And I still absolutely adore it. Tried to sit Henry down for that one when we lived together. He got through about a half an hour, and I got so frustrated by his fucking comments that I just shut it off.
I'm not a fan of that movie.
It's a great movie. And it does slightly worse than Life is Beautiful. La Vie on something. Hope.
A feel-good Holocaust movie.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's a real boy in the striped pajamas situation. Do you remember that movie?
I didn't see it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw Life is Beautiful in the theater.
I did too.
Oh.
Yeah, he won that Oscar. He stepped on them chairs.
Bellissima!
Yeah. Yeah, what a year. What a year. Roberto Benigni is winning acting awards. Also got beat by Hope Floats.
Sandy B.
Yeah, your girl Sandy B.
I didn't see
And
that.
Ever After, a Cinderella story.
Oh, that's Drew Barrymore, right?
Yep, I saw that in theaters too.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure why. Yeah, so Andrew Davis is long gone by this point. He's remaking Hitchcock movies instead of
That's
doing
right.
Fugitive
Same year.
sequels. Yeah.
He got Michael Douglas this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I go through the credits really quick on this movie, or do you want to go on Andrew Davis?
I want to talk about Stuart Baird for a second.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's only directed 3 movies.
Nothing.
He's better known as an editor, and that's
Yes.
He was sort of an editor on some gigantic movies, and
Big time editor.
We've
yeah.
talked about this, where like if you're a big editor or cinematographer in the early '90s, like Hollywood will let you try to direct something.
Well, we've seen it. We mentioned it with cinematographers. I didn't know we ever mentioned it with editors.
No, that happens.
Yeah, I didn't know it did.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I mean, he's on lots of notable stuff. But
I will say we've covered 2 films that Stuart Baird edited.
Hit me. I don't remember.
Superman the movie.
Oh, okay.
And Die Hard 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Richard Donner guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
Didn't he do
I
Lethal
think-
Weapon?
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he likes Donner.
Yeah. So he's directed 3 movies. U.S. Marshals is the one smack in the middle. Before this, he had done Executive Decision.
Boy. I know that's a Steven Seagal thing, right?
Yeah. We're really hanging out with Seagal in this franchise. And after this, he would go on to make Star Trek Nemesis, which of the Star Trek films I've seen is the worst one.
Never saw it.
It's so bad. That's with the Next Generation crew.
Right.
Yeah, so he's not a director of note. We'll just say that.
No.
And this movie has no visual style whatsoever. It's
which is odd because it's by a I believe he's Czechoslovakian, Andres Bartkowiak.
Yeah, that's right.
Who did shot lots of notable movies as well, and then also tried his hand at directing.
What did he direct?
I didn't even write it down because it wasn't worth writing. So
okay.
Jump. I don't write it down if it's not worth mentioning, but maybe I should have.
Funny.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it must not have been. If it was, I would have written it. It must have been like something really off the radar that I didn't care about.
Okay.
But we got a major interesting point here on who wrote the score.
Okay, so James Newton Howard. Wait, we didn't talk about him in the first one. What else has he done?
He's done so much stuff. So in The Fugitive, he really did a lot of stuff in the 80s and nothing really memorable. But then he went on after The Fugitive. He had done stuff prior to The Fugitive, like Pretty Woman. I mean, who fucking remembers the score to that, you know? And but after
is he Roy Orbison?
You know what? I've seen him in a wig and glasses. It might be. He went on to do like The Sixth Sense and Signs, all of Shyamalan's things.
Sure.
He did co-wrote the score for the Nolan Batman first two movies. He did No, that's Hans Zimmer.
Okay.
All the good stuff that's all Hans Zimmer. Now, James Newton Howard's good though. He's a solid score writer, but he's really he's not very picky. He takes a lot of workload. I mean, he did recently. He did The Hunger Games and Nightcrawler. He's been nominated for a couple of. Yeah, I mean, he's good, but he's a real like workhorse who just churns them out.
Yeah, I think The Fugitive's a just okay score.
I think it's very good. There's this more subtler moments are what I like when he's in the woods. There's like a very low baseline rumbling stuff that's like very, very like eloquent and
evocative.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's a good composer, James Newton Howard.
So who's the guy in U.S. Marshals?
Jerry fucking Goldsmith.
Oh man, we're seeing a lot of him lately.
Yeah, who's one of the greatest. Yeah, as you actually put it, he a long time ago on the podcast, he's on the Mount Rushmore. But boy, is this a generic score for a generic movie. But
Basic Instinct and Supergirl, I believe.
Oh my God, did he do Supergirl?
I think so.
You're right. Well, poor man. But yeah, but he's done so many great things. But this one, my note on this was Jerry Goldsmith. Eek.
Well, I'm gonna say right off the bat about U.S. Marshals. So there's a lot of bad movie podcasts out there. You know, there's some good ones and some bad ones. And I always thought it was weird that I've never seen one of those shows cover U.S. Marshals, because it would seem ripe for that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I understand why now, because U.S. Marshals, it's not a bad movie.
Yeah, I agree.
It's perfectly fine.
It's not very good.
It's so unnotable.
Yeah. It's like a 2-hour time killer.
Oh, it's nothing. It's a hangover movie.
Right.
But it's perfect for that. Like, if I watched U.S. Marshals on TV on a Sunday lazy afternoon,
yep,
I'm perfectly happy with it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. And by the way,
I can't say I enjoyed it. But,
I did. I liked watching this movie.
Yeah. It was not painful thing, not by any standard. No. It's a solid action film. It's okay.
And it stars Tommy Lee Jones, Wesley Snipes, and Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
How bad could it be?
Right. You skipped over John Pogue, who I just wanted to mention also wrote a lot of shit besides this, and actually became a director as well.
Oh.
And did a recent horror movie that I saw in the theaters called The Quiet Ones.
Yeah, I think he also did Quarantine 2.
I think you're right.
Direct to DVD.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, right.
You saw that movie?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Was it any good?
It's fine. It's fine. It's a forgettable horror movie. Very derivative, but not horrible at all, you know.
Okay. Yeah. So the premise of this one is a Wesley Snipes, early on in the movie, there's a guy smoking a cigar in his car, and he drops it, and he's like, "Oh, Mike's cigar! Damn it!"
That was based on my life. That opening scene.
And so he runs down Wesley Snipes' car. Wesley Snipes gets taken to the hospital. He's dating a very attractive French woman.
Oh, I love her.
She's great, yeah. And
Irene Jacob? I don't know.
Okay.
I always called her Irene Jacob, but I think it's like Irene Jacob.
But they look him up to see who he is, and it turns out he's like hiding in Chicago from a double murder that he's been accused of.
Yeah, these are the luckiest cops in the world, where their fugitive gets in a car accident and falls into their head.
Wesley Snipes really, after the events of this movie, should have gone back to Chicago, found that cigar guy, and murdered him. Because this fucking guy dropping a cigar ends up ruining Wesley Snipes' life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
then we get a plane crash instead of a train crash.
It's a plane of fugitives, and it's like, man, these U.S. Marshals are really cleaning up. This plane is filled with fugitives.
Yeah. You got a real Con Air situation going on.
It is.
You think that had an influence on it?
100%. Yeah, I thought of Con Air immediately. And the plane crashes. Tommy Lee Jones dusts himself off. Not a scratch on him.
Not a scratch. Yeah.
And Wesley Snipes survives too, and goes on the run. And so the rest of the movie is Tommy Lee searching for Wesley Snipes, and what is it, like the FBI?
Well, the plane crashes because he's someone on the plane tries to kill Wesley Snipes.
Oh yeah, there's weird shit with the Japanese mob, I guess.
Yeah, it's really convoluted plot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't even need to get into that.
No, all right, good. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's meaningless. But like he gets away, and Robert Downey Jr. is like forced upon Tommy Lee Jones. Like, you've got your old crew,
right?
But listen,
here we go.
Listen,
here we go. Here we go. Here it comes.
You've got your Joey Pants.
Yep.
You got your Arst from Lost.
Yep.
You've got your Rose from Lost. Wait, hang on. Is
No.
that Rose from Lost? No.
Took me 25 minutes into the movie while I was admiring the fact that they got all these different guys back, and I was going, boy, there's something about her that
L. Scott Caldwell is missing from this movie.
That is not right, and I had to look it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, they got a different black woman.
She's just a similar looking black woman.
Wow.
And
didn't fool me though. Didn't fool me.
I looked up to see
I didn't know who it was.
I looked it up whether she was playing the same character as L. Scott Caldwell, like whether they had recast the character, you know?
No, it's the
but
same.
no, it's a different character.
Yeah.
It's Samuel
L. Jackson's wife.
We've got a really.
Yep, that's what
insane.
When I clicked on her name, that's one of the first things that came up. They're married.
Yeah, they were just sort of like, well, we had like a 40-something black woman in that first movie. Let's do that again. It's real weird and uncomfortable.
Even though she's taller and like bigger, and it's very.
But it's so obviously like quota filling.
Yeah. They give her more to do in this. But
not really.
Well, she's like wielding a gun, and she's not just like on the comm channel. It's odd.
She's not as good.
I agree.
L. Scott Caldwell is a much finer actress.
Yeah, and like that was the beauty of that first movie, where that crew was very integral to the whole plot, but they were like really good in like their commitment to these like little throwaway lines.
It is in the second one too. Like they
gave
Joey Pants a lot to do, and Daniel Roebuck has way more to do in this movie.
Yeah.
And they're valuable. Like you need them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're the U.S. Marshals, so
they are the titular U.S. Marshals. By the way, U.S. Marshals is such a fucking bad title.
Yeah, got me in the theater.
Me too.
Oh, I didn't. I'm kidding.
No, I saw this in theaters.
I skipped it.
I'll talk about that in a second. It's just so generic. I don't like any title where it's just like the name of something. Like there's a movie called The Marine.
Right.
That's
right.
a bad. Or like Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
I hate that shit. U.S. Marshals tells me nothing.
Right.
Like, if I didn't read Entertainment Weekly at the time, I would not have known this was a Fugitive sequel.
No, nobody would have.
Yeah, nobody did. That's why no one saw it.
Right.
No one's going to see some random movie called U.S. Marshals starring Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1998. Not everybody was on the internet yet, and people were still looking at their newspapers to see what was coming out. It was that kind of deal, and like you said, Entertainment Weekly and stuff. So it's like you were dependent upon information through different channels, so it wasn't disseminated in quite such an instant fashion as today.
Ooh, look at you. Yeah, that's true. So I saw this movie in theaters. My friend John Karp knew I was a big movie buff, and 2 years in a row on his birthday, he let me pick the movie that like all of us kids, like he and his friends and his mom, I guess, would go see on his birthday. That's what he wanted to do. Like instead of a party, we'd go to the movies and like go out for pizza afterwards.
Yeah.
And I led him totally astray both times. I picked such bad movies. I mean, not this. This isn't terrible, but so the first year I picked U.S. Marshals. And so it's just a bunch of 12-year-olds at like a birthday party going to see U.S. Marshals. and the next year I picked Mystery Men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So John Karp.
I'll take this over that.
Yeah, me too. John Karp. Sorry, buddy.
18 years later, an apology.
Yeah. So that's how I saw this in theaters.
Okay. I never saw it in theaters, and I realized when I was watching it, I never saw this movie all the way through.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I had seen it on TV, but I had only seen certain scenes because I knew Robert Downey Jr. was the villain, and I knew that Newman got killed. Those were the two things I remembered, so I must have seen bits and pieces, but I never saw this all the way through.
Downey has like a heel turn late in this movie, and we've talked about this before. It's actually like the Doctor, I guess, in the first one, but he's working with Tommy Lee because now Tommy Lee is the main character.
Right. By the way, I'm sorry. Before we go on, didn't you have a quote you wanted to read me from a review in The Fugitive, or was that for?
No, it's for U.S. Marshals.
Okay.
And it's not a quote from a review. It's a quote from Robert Downey Jr. So I'll tell you this. Robert Downey Jr., who, by the way, is great in this movie.
Yeah, and he was still not in his... he was not doing well at this point in terms of his...
Oh, no.
life.
It really... Yeah, he's wasted. And
I mean, he was very, very famous. He'd already been famous for over a decade.
Yeah, but he's kind of struggling at this point. Like, this is around the time he did, like, Two Girls and a Guy.
I like that movie, but you're right.
I love that movie, but it's not a big movie. Like,
no. He's having his problems.
Yeah, I mean, he was on season 4 of Ally McBeal as a regular, and he couldn't come back for season 5 because he was too strung out. Yeah, really bad. He got replaced by John Bon Jovi.
Oh, man.
Yeah, true story. And that's why Ally McBeal ran 5 seasons. Robert Downey Jr., in an interview after...
Ally McBeal was not wanted, dead or alive.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is what Robert Downey Jr. said about making this movie.
When did he say this? When's this?
Very shortly after its release.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's possibly the worst action movie of all time. And that's just not good for the maintenance of a good spiritual condition. You've had a traumatic year. You've been practically suicidal. What do you think would be really healing for you? How about like 12 weeks of running around as Johnny Handgun? I think that if you talk to a spirit guide, they would say that'll kill you. I thought maybe there was something I was missing, and what I really needed to do was to be in one of those films that I love taking my kid to, but it wound up being really depressing. I'd rather wake up in jail for a TB test than have to wake up another morning knowing that I'm going to the set of U.S. Marshals.
End quote.
End quote.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Wow.
This is coming from Iron Man, ladies and
Wow.
gentlemen. Iron
Holy
Man and Sherlock Holmes. So I'm sure he loved taking his kids to those. But holy fuck, is that brutal.
Was that a well-publicized interview? Who's it with?
I don't even know. It's on the IMDb trivia.
And he said it at the time.
It says shortly after the film's release.
Wow, that is holy shit.
It does sound like him. Once
Yeah,
you
it
get
does.
into spirit guides, it's unmistakably Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, wow. Tobin Spirit Guide, Ghostbusters. Yeah, that's pretty fucking brutal. I guess the producers weren't too happy with him.
No. I mean, and he killed his career basically. Like he's one of these guys that just like should be on his knees every morning thanking Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're right. But I mean, before Iron Man, he had a little resurgence, right? He was coming back.
What was he doing before Iron Man?
Zodiac.
Yeah, fine, but like what?
Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
But those movies aren't big movies.
No. But I'm just saying he had started a turnaround.
Sure,
the turnaround had begun.
There were some smart, good directors that were willing to give him a chance because they know that he can deliver.
Exactly, but you're absolutely right. You're right. Jon Favreau. That was yeah.
But I love him in this movie. Like he's a real breath of fresh air. Like I didn't remember him being in this, and so I'm watching U.S. Marshals. I'm like, oh, all right, this is 2 hours and 10 minutes. And then,
I know.
And then Robert Downey Jr. shows up, and you're like, oh, fucking awesome.
So you didn't know he was? Well, you knew he was in it.
I did. Once he showed up, I was like, oh, right. But I had forgotten. I didn't remember going into it that he was around.
Right.
I remembered Snipes. And Wesley Snipes. This is a Wesley Snipes in the 90s movie, so he's just destroying.
Yeah, he's
great too. I mean, Wesley Snipes couldn't miss in the 90s.
No, man, like White Men Can't Jump.
New Jack City.
New Jack City. Good call. Yeah.
Demolition Man.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
I love that movie.
So do I. I love that movie, too. And he was in one of my favorite movies. The second time I'll be mentioning this movie, The Water Dance.
I'll throw out one of my weird ones that I like.
Yeah.
Sugar Hill.
Never saw it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Water Dance?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so he's pretty unstoppable in the 90s. And he was even in that Sean Connery flick that did well,
Rising Sun, sure.
Yeah,
I read the Michael Crichton novel at the time.
Wow. Well, is that because you were a Jurassic Park fan? Did that get you into Michael Crichton?
That's right. But I mean, very shortly after this movie, Wesley Snipes' career just takes a tumble.
Yeah, it's true.
He does Blade after this, but that's about
right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
All that tax shit. And,
right. Yeah, tax evasion or something.
Yeah, and now he's just doing like direct-to-DVD movies with like 50 Cent. And
yeah, it's too bad.
He did that TV show that only lasted a few episodes.
Oh, what was that?
The Player, I think it was on NBC.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's too bad. I'd like to see him come back.
You know? I would too, and I saw that Spike Lee movie, Chirac, which I thought was really bad.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see Wesley Snipes in a Spike Lee context.
Oh, he's in it?
Yeah. And I think I would really enjoy a collaboration between those two again. Because,
that'd be cool.
Because, I mean, we didn't reference talking about great Wesley Snipes movies of the 90s. Fucking Jungle Fever.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in another Spike Lee, right?
Boy, I don't know off the top of my head. I saw all those Spike Lee movies in the 90s, but I don't remember. Does he come back for something? I don't know.
I think he's in something maybe before that. I could be wrong. I'm going to look it up real quick.
Well, Jungle Fever's 91, so...
Oh, yeah, so it's probably after that.
Yeah.
I share a birthday with Wesley Snipes, I just learned from IMDb.
Really?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Jungle Fever. Oh, of course, he's in Mo Better Blues.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is
Denzel.
before.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. Okay.
I love Mo Better Blues.
Yeah, it's a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. If you want to, Mo Better Blues has the best character names in film history. Watch Mo Better Blues. Pay attention to the character names. You won't be let down.
That's funny. Okay.
Everyone's insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else on U.S. Marshals?
I don't know, man. I don't have much written
There's
down.
not a ton to talk about because it's just sort of a standard action movie.
I mean, I wrote down that there's I wrote cute scene where where they're setting up a perimeter and Tommy Lee Jones is like watching the sheriff stumble around about how to like do that on the map.
Yeah. There's
and
like
he steps in finally. That was nice. That was a nice
there's
touch.
the scene in The Fugitive
That's very
that's
famous
also
scene.
been parodied a lot, where it's like,
Yeah.
I want you to search.
Outhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's telling them like what the perimeter is and where to
Average foot speed barring injury over 6 miles is 9 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. So there's a scene in this one where there's like a bumbling sheriff who's trying to do that, and Tommy Lee Jones steps in like, I got it. That is a good scene, and that ends with that big moment where he's like I think it starts with the moment where they're talking about Wesley Snipes like he's probably dead, and
right.
Tommy Lee Jones outlines why he's not, basically, and it ends with him like a big scene. The camera pushes in and on me, goes, "We've got a fugitive."
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, let's do this.
Let's go.
Tommy Lee Jones, by the way, is just omniscient in this film. Like,
he's my MVP.
But I just mean, like, in The Fugitive, that character was struggling, like, realistically, to find Harrison Ford. And in this movie, it's like he's telepathic.
Yeah.
He knows everything.
I should
that's
clarify.
about to
He's not my MVP because he's God.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. He is. He's got a hell of a foresight there.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
I do think I have a little bit of a problem with Wesley Snipes just being innocent for the entire movie.
Well, we don't even. Yeah, like it's a very strange choice. He's innocent, but like you don't know, but he's got to be.
No, he's innocent.
Right.
And I really do think that after The Fugitive, the interesting thing to do for the sequel would be to have Wesley Snipes presented like you think he's innocent, and then the twist would be, no, he's guilty.
That would have been
he murdered those guys.
Yeah, that would have been way too daring for a movie of this caliber.
No, this movie does everything you expect it to.
Right.
And it does it fine. It's
right.
not a bad movie.
Stuart Baird he's fine. Yeah.
I mean, he's a non-entity.
Right.
He did,
yeah.
I read, when we first see Tommy Lee Jones in this movie, he's wearing a chicken costume.
That's right.
And you're like, what the fuck is this? And, he's undercover or whatever. And, like, I read that in the script, he was supposed to be dressed as a priest. And Stuart Baird came up with the idea for the chicken costume because he was like, it'll be funny. Yeah. So,
I was laughing.
So maybe this is actually a worse movie than it would be because Stuart Baird's in the director's seat.
All right, that's an okay point. Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally fine if you have a hangover, if you have other shit on your mind, if you're doing the laundry. Watch U.S. Marshals. It's fine.
Throw it on in the background.
Yeah.
If you have a dinner party.
Yeah, sure. You'll have fun. It's not a bad movie. That's pretty much all I got.
I got my LVP. Could have been several contenders. I'm going to go with the writer, John Pogue, just because, come up with something a little bit more interesting, man. It's very clunky. I found this script very clunky.
That's fair. Yeah. Before I go into my MVP, LVP, I just had one last note.
Sure, yeah, and I got a superhero count, too.
Okay, so weirdly, Wesley Snipes' girlfriend has a big part in this movie.
Uh-huh.
And she's played by that French actress. What's her name?
Irene Jacob.
Yeah, so she's like a real like prestige name because like
the double life of Veronique.
Yes, exactly. That's the movie I was gonna bring up. But she's been
Well,
in
that's her
other
big-
shit. She's been in like 3 or 4 movies that are like on the Criterion Collection.
Right, she was in the Kieslowski trilogy.
Yeah, yeah, Blue. She's in Blue. Of
Oh, I thought it was
Blue.
I thought she was in Red.
You're totally right. Sorry.
Yeah, Blue is Juliette Binoche, the other French beauty.
Yes, yeah, it is. So she's just hanging around this movie, and she's this incredibly fucking perfectly gorgeous French woman.
Yeah.
And she's just working in Starbucks.
I'm glad you brought that up.
First of all, this is very early for Starbucks product placement.
I thought that too.
Yeah,
I was like 1998.
Yeah,
I was like, I was actually hanging out in a lot of coffee houses in '98, and
Starbucks
I was like,
wasn't a thing yet.
and no, that wasn't one of the ones I was hanging out in. That was before. I was hanging out in the ones like non-chain ones,
Yeah,
and yeah, that was funny.
Starbucks is
wow.
all over this movie.
A few times.
And
yeah.
anytime we're just seeing this attractive French lady, she's just wearing a Starbucks hat.
Slinging coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah,
so that's all I have. So I'm gonna give this a 3.
That's what I'm giving it.
Yeah, I think the 3 rating was invented for U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's too good to be a 2, but it's not even close to a 4.
exactly. It's not even close to either of those ratings. It's just right in the fucking center of the 3.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So
what do you got?
go ahead. I was just going to say, are we counting Blade as a superhero?
Yes, we are.
Because he's a comic book character, right?
Yeah, he's a superhero.
All right, then there's 4. You got Tommy Lee Jones, Joey Pants, Blade, and you got Iron Man.
Oh, of course. Yeah, fucking Iron Man's in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
And I'm watching Captain America: Civil War right when I get off the phone with you.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
off the line. I'm gonna go MVP, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
But it could just as easily be Wesley Snipes or Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the 3 of them make this fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree, but to me, it was really Jones carrying it.
Oh, he's running. He's running things.
So, right.
And LVP, I'll go Stuart Baird. I'm just going to go
That's
the director as the least valuable player in both of these movies because they work mostly in spite of the directors.
Yeah, I agree on U.S. Marshals, but I think you gave Andrew Davis a little bit of short shrift on The Fugitive. I think it's a well-directed film. I know exactly where you're coming from, that like another person might have been able to step in and do it well as well, but you know.
I think so much of why the movie works, though, visually is the editing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know these 6 fucking guys that edited it,
Right.
but like, it's just paced well. Like,
right.
There's no shot in The Fugitive where you're like, "That's beautiful, man." Like, it's.
I
just,
guess.
It just runs. The movie just chugs along like a fucking train.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. So that's The Fugitive. We've done it.